excited to be here. This second session is exciting. We're going to talk about communication. And one of the things that I know with teenagers is that communication is so important. We try our best to communicate with teens, and you'll get a yeah, okay, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about how you can get more conversation out of your teen, okay? And a lot of it has to do with how we ask questions. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen, and thank you all for being here. It shows your dedication to come back for your second session, and I really appreciate you being here. So, can everybody hear me all right? I know they say that it's a little low, so I'm hoping that you can hear me
Yeah,
as best as
you're
possible.
very clear now. It's good now.
Good, good. All right. So, let's get started. And this is welcome to session 2, and it's called Winning Communication. All right. So, we're going to start off by doing a debrief of, all right, what's happening here? A debrief of, there we go, of last session. Okay. In session 1, we talked about the purpose of parenting, to protect and prepare children and teens to survive and thrive in the kind of society in which they will live. And as we can see, who would have thought that we would have another war? Who would have thought that anybody would think of going to war with another country? And here we are. And it's been happening over and over again. Um, there has been shootings in our school. There has been overdoses and deaths. Um, we're faced with a lot. And in all of that, we're still suffering from the pandemic. So when you think about all this, we have to really prepare our kids. Who knows what they're going to have to face? Who knows what we're going to have to face, right? So there's 5 key qualities of character: respect, and we learned last time that you have to show respect to get respect. Responsibility, cooperation, courage, and self-esteem. And courage is not always going out and fighting and stuff like that. Sometimes courage is about walking away. Okay, the teen brain, right? And we talked about balance, how you need to have everything equal so that you have balance and can stay afloat. So if you're not taking care of yourself, then it may be hard to take care of your children, right? If you get sick, the last thing you want to do is parent or take care of kids. So if we parent while we're feeling well and take care of ourselves, then it's going to be a little easier because our kids will know what to do. And hopefully they'll do it, right? And we'll be able to rest, get ourselves together, right? The teen brain is developed up to the age 25. So when we think that people should know what to do, sometimes they don't, because that process of the brain developing has not finished. Brain goes through a lot of pruning processes. So if you don't use it, the brain throws it out because it feels like it doesn't need it, or you'll lose it. Promote your teen's brain development, support, encourage, set limits. Children have to have limits and problem solve with them. And that's not you just sitting down and saying, you will do this. That's sitting down, having a conversation with your child and discussing these problems. Remember, being a parent is like having a partnership with your child. You have to sit down and talk to them, and you have to respect them so they can respect you. So now there's different styles of parenting, and we talked about this. The dictator is autocratic, right? It limits without freedom, you know. The doormat is permissive. They let their children do whatever. And this is freedom without limits. That means that we are not uh, setting any boundaries. Kids need boundaries, but these boundaries also have to grow, right, as they get older. So if you have a 14-year-old, although you might want to choose their clothes for them, right, you're not going to be able to do that like when they were 2 years old. And even 2 years old now, I have a granddaughter and she's like, I'm not wearing that. So as kids get older, we have to talk to them about it, right? So just remember that the active parent is authoritative, and they have freedoms within limits. That means we set boundaries, but we allow them to have freedoms within that. That is age appropriate. Influence, not control. There's mutual respect. We talked about that. The method of choice, if, or, which one, and then participation in the home, participation about making choices. What chores would you like to do? Okay, you may not like to do any of them, but what chores would you pick? So if somebody picks out taking out the trash, then that's something that they decide that they can do, and hopefully they will do it well, and we will teach them how to do it, right? So freedom within expanding limits. Strengthen your family with family meetings. We talked about family meetings. I hope some of you had some family meetings. We do family enrichment activities, and I asked everybody to take care of themselves. So we've talked about this slide here. This is our review from last session. And so when you think about this, oh, sorry. So the problem solving model, right? And one thing I want to say is that everybody has problems. I don't care how good of a parent you are, there are going to be problems, right? So successful families handle their problems and learn from them, okay? And if you take the time to handle your problems and to learn from them, then if they happen again, it's not so devastating and it's not a big problem, but you can go back and talk about what you've done. Unsuccessful families make problems worse and don't learn how to improve. If you don't face your problems and talk about them as a family, then you're not going to all be on the same page. So you need to talk about these problems and come up with a solution and make it like a theme for your family. I don't know how many of you saw in the olden days where people used to have, I don't know what I forgot what they call it now, but they had these emblems or crests or something like that. And when I work with families, sometimes I ask them to write down a vision. Like, what kind of vision do you have for your family? Or I try and get, if somebody is creative, them to draw a family crest. Because a family is a family. You all are all in this together. I was a single parent most of my kids' life, and I had to come up with some type of way of keeping us together and have some unity. And it didn't always work, but I think because I tried this, it works better now because they know about it and then they try and do the same with their kids. So who owns the problem? We talk about who owns the problem, and this is sometimes you think as an adult you own the problem all the time. But we're going to look at this. Does the adult own the problem or does the teen own the problem? So the adult provides the discipline, okay? The teen and the adult provides support for the teen, right? But the teen actually, most of the time has to solve their problem unless it's something that's going to get them hurt or something like that. So let's look at a video on this. And this is one of the great things that I like about this parenting class is that, it shows you real life situations. Try up here. There we go.
Come on. Mom, this stuff is cold. Well, you were supposed to have been in over an hour ago to eat it. I can't eat this. I'll just make a sandwich. Sit back down, Derek. This is what I made.
The first step in handling a problem effectively is to determine who owns responsibility for handling it. The parent, the teen, or in some cases, both. When the parent owns the problem, we rely more on discipline skills to correct the behavior. When the teen owns the problem, we'll use our support skills. And for shared problems, we'll use both discipline and support. The following clues can help you determine who owns a problem. Who is the problem behavior directly affecting? Whose goals are being blocked? Does the problem involve health, safety, or family values? Is the problem one that you can reasonably expect your teen to solve? To help you get a better feel for this, let's take another look at the problem of Derek coming home late. After you watch this scene, use the clues to determine who owns this problem, Derek or his mom.
Mom, this stuff is cold. Well, you were supposed to have been in over an hour ago to eat it. I can't eat this. I'll just make a sandwich. Sit back down, Derek. This is what I made for dinner, and this is what you're going to eat. No, you can't make me eat this stuff. I'll report you to child welfare. Sit down. No, I said sit down and eat.
Whose problem is this? Derek's or his mother's?
Okay, who do you think owns the problem? Okay. Don't know, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carlos.
I was gonna say a little bit of both. One, because
Okay.
he didn't show up on time, and two, the way she's like handling the situation. She's being a little bit aggressive towards him.
Right. And do we really expect a child to eat cold food, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that's his fault for not
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
on time. When dinner was supposed to be nice and hot for him.
Right. Okay, let's see. Oh.
Come on. Mom, this stuff is cold. Well, you were supposed to have been in over an hour ago to eat it. I can't eat this. I'll just make a sandwich. Sit back down, Derek. This is what I made.
The first step in handling a problem effectively is to determine who owns responsibility for handling it. The parent, the teen, or in some cases, both. When the parent owns the problem, we rely more on discipline skills to correct the behavior. When the teen owns the problem, we'll use our support skills. And for shared problems, we'll use both discipline and support. The following clues can help you determine who owns a problem. Who is the problem behavior directly affecting? Whose goals are being blocked? Does the problem involve health, safety, or family values? Is the problem one that you can reasonably expect your teen to solve? To help you get a better feel for this, let's take another look at the problem of Derek coming home late. After you watch this scene, use the clues to determine who owns this problem, Derek or his mom.
Okay, let's see if I can.
Mom,
I'm not sure what's going on here.
I think there's kind of a semantic problem because, you know, who owns the problem kind of suggests volition.
supposed to have been in over.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who owns the problem as a question just kind of suggests volition, whereas whose problem is it? Like Derek's having the problem, but then the mother is taking ownership of the problem. Like she's taking it over. So I think it's a little confusing the way it's being asked, like who owns the problem? Well, it's Derek's problem, but the mom's taking ownership. And I think we can all see that the solution would be for the mom to take on a supportive role rather than punitive role where she's, you know, the mom's reacting. She's just like all of us. She's probably had a hard day at work and she's probably all stressed out about COVID and her job and her sick mom and all kind of other things. And so when the kid comes in doing probably the same thing he does like every day, we just lose it. And we're just like, Derek, get your shit together. You're eating that food at this point. But it would be more beneficial, I think, to everybody if she could be more supportive. Oh, sorry, you're having this problem again. What do you think we could do to solve it? Like, how could we work it out so that you end up with hot food when you come home from basketball?
Okay. So it's not, so do you think it's just Derek's problem?
Well, I think it's one of those problems where it becomes a bit of the mom's problem because, you know, we're all juggling resources and whatnot, and it's irritating when our kids, like, you know, we're trying to make the best use of our resources. We don't want to throw out the dinner that we cooked, and we want them to eat something healthy. So if he eats PB&J instead of what's on his plate, then it's kind of our problem because we're trying to get some healthy food ostensibly into our kids. So I can see how it becomes the mom's problem, but but she can set boundaries and not make it her problem. She can just say, sorry, PB&J is not on the menu today. You eat what you've got, you warm it up, or else you show up for dinner. Those are your three choices. And, you know, sorry if you're in a bad situation today, but maybe we can work on solutions so that you have a better situation tomorrow.
Okay. So let's look and see. I'm sorry that I'm having problems advancing this. There are some controls that I'm not able to use for some reason. Let's see.
Hi, I was eating. So I was eating my own cold dinner.
I'll just make a sandwich. Sit back down, Derek. This is what I made for dinner, and this is what you're gonna eat. No, you can't make me eat this stuff. I'll report you to child welfare. Sit down. No, I said sit down and eat.
Whose problem is this? Derek's or his mother's?
Now, let's see. Okay, well, actually, when you're talking about whose problem is, there's two problems here. One is mom, you know, has supposedly probably told Derek that he needs to come in by a certain time, and she has his food, right? He knows what time dinner is. He has a problem because now he's late and his mother is trying to force him to eat food that's cold, right? So um, Carlos and I think it's Carolyn or Charlotte. So both of you are kind of right. Um, whose goals are being blocked? Well, actually, mom's goal is being blocked. Mom wants to feed him a healthy meal and everything. Does the problem involve health, safety, or family values? Yes, it does, because she wants him to come in and eat and everything. Is the problem one that you can reasonably expect your teen to solve? Well, how could he solve it? How do you think he could solve it?
Well, for tonight, he can warm up his food and eat it. It's not out of his, skill set to warm up his
Right.
food. And then in
Mm-hmm.
future, he can set an alarm 15 minutes prior and he can walk himself home at the reasonable time.
Right.
I mean, I think it's
Okay.
his problem. I think the mom needs to make it his problem. Like, she's having a problem with his behavior, yes, but he's also having a problem because he wants to eat. He's hungry. So I
Yes.
would just, I try always to make it the kid's problem as much as I can, like if they can solve it, they should solve it.
Or maybe, so here's a good reason why we sit down and we have family meetings and talk to each other. And not mom standing over top of him and telling him what to do. But by sitting down, I think you said something about that too, Charlotte. Sitting down and talking and coming up with reasonable behaviors. So let's go to the next one, okay? And I'm hoping that this will work. Unfortunately, it's not doing what it's supposed to do, so I do apologize. But two or more people cooperation, two or more people working together in a mutual supportive manner for a common goal. So the goal is common between the two of them, right? Mom and with Derek. Do you think that it's a common goal? Anyone?
I think so.
Yeah. So
Because the
Derek
mom,
wants to eat.
yeah,
Yeah,
the mom
eating dinner.
goals, yeah, the mom goal
Yeah.
was to prepare the food for his son, and the son goal is for him to eat healthy and good and feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so they do have a common goal. Um, Dictators demand cooperation. So she was being a little bit of a dictator, right? Demanding his cooperation. Not a doormat, you know, but active parents have a win cooperation, right? They need to work towards a win-win situation. So one is mutual respect and the other one is participation. So sitting down with Derek and finding out what the barrier is, what's going on.
We
So
also
who
have,
owns the problem? Yes.
Miss Mosby, we also have a couple of people that they mentioned. I think the mom can ask the son nicely what happened to him today. Why is he late? Suggest that she can warm the food if it's cold.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. She's being a bit of a dictator, like you're going to eat it and okay, so it's cold, and he responds by, well, I'm gonna call child welfare on you. You can't treat me this way and make me eat it. So the big thing was like, okay, Derek, sit down, let's talk about this. I'll warm your food up, but you need to eat dinner, right? And he wants to eat dinner, it's just that it was cold. So we want to avoid communication blocks by yelling, by standing over top, different things like that. We need to let the teen handle but offer support using active communication. So let's see how that active communication can work. So the road to cooperation is paved with good communication. And everybody has taken kind of a communication class, right? In school or other places, asking open-ended questionings, listening supportively, acknowledging people when they talk to you. So let's see on this video how this works. I tell you, I'm not good at this. It's great having these videos, but
Active parenting defines cooperation as two or more people working together in a mutually supportive manner for a common goal. This is one of the most powerful concepts in human behavior. With it, civilizations are built and problems are solved. Without it, civilizations are destroyed and problems escalate into angry power struggles, even wars. All parents want a cooperative relationship with their teens. Autocratic parents demand it. Permissive parents hope for it. But active parents go out and win it, and they win it primarily with effective communication skills. One of the truest things ever said about communication is that you cannot not communicate. Why? Because communication is more than just the words we say. It's also about how we say them. In fact, there are three main modes of communication that carry our messages to our teens and theirs to us: words, tone of voice, and nonverbal cues such as facial expressions and body language. If we want to learn to communicate effectively with our teens, then we have to listen to all three channels, because many times what our teens say with their words is not the whole story.
okay, I'm just going to stop this for a second. So, in the first video, how were her words? Do you think it was a dictatorship type of situation?
Yes, just like almost aggressive and authoritative.
Right. And so, what would have been a better way of her turning this around?
I think now we're hearing a lot more about it's best to connect with your child before you correct your child, because they're not
Yes.
going to want to offer information or share what's going on if they don't feel like it's a safe space to
Right.
so I think
They need to be heard.
if she maybe had expressed her concern, like, I've been worried about you, can you tell me why you're getting home at this time? It's really important that I know where you are and that you're going to be here to have dinner as a family, or whatever her concerns are, and express that, and maybe asked, what happened, why were you running late today, and maybe find a solution together.
Right. And sit down. Maybe he doesn't have a watch
Yeah,
and didn't know what time it was.
and maybe tell him that if you are running late, call to let me know. Advance.
If he has a cell phone, right? Because not all kids have cell phones. But I
Yes.
think the biggest thing is that how are you going to tell time? How are you going to set a time, right? If he doesn't know when dinner's going to be ready, how's he going to be there on time? But if you say, I will have dinner ready by 5 or 5:15, I want you to be home by that time, and if it's still nice outside, you can go back outside, then you're coming up with a plan, right? You're meeting both her needs and his needs. Okay, let's start again. Okay.
Abby, let's talk about school.
There, that's how you do
You can't
it.
just stay home like this because you don't feel like going.
School's stupid.
Now, that's an exaggeration, and you know it. School's your responsibility, and you have to take care of your responsibilities.
I just can't go.
But why?
I just can't.
Honestly, Abby,
By ignoring her daughter's tone of voice and nonverbal communication, Mrs. Shelton has missed the real issue and is left frustrated and bewildered. In this session, we'll be exploring methods that will help you open up the lines of communication between you and your teens so that you can read between the lines to help them solve problems more effectively.
Okay, so now that I know how to work the video, okay, I'm sorry, but each one is differently. I'm gonna go back so you can see the full, video. Okay, let's see if we can go back and at least see the second one. Okay. All right.
This is the mother's problem because her goal of having her son home in time for dinner is being blocked, and her role as leader of the family is being challenged. Let's try another one.
You've been on that thing all day. I need to check.
So what do you think about that? That it's actually the mom's problem because she's being blocked by her goals of having dinner on time and feeding her son. And also, she's being challenged as head of the household. Does anybody want to comment on that or
Yeah,
have anything?
so she could be what? So are you saying that she should be more flexible with her time as to when to have dinner? Because it looked like the kid was also upset because the food was cold, and that's the only reason why I had chose that it was both of their problems. His problem because he didn't show up on time for dinner, right? But now you're saying that maybe instead of having that dictatorship role as a parent, be more flexible with dinner time.
No, no, that's not what I'm saying. She could have calmed down a little bit more. You're not going to make a child eat cold food.
Yeah, he was upset because the food was cold, but wasn't that his problem because he didn't show up on time?
It was. It was. So she could have let him know that it was his problem. But her
Yeah,
problem is that I've set a time for you and you're late coming in, and we've discussed this before, and you're challenging my authority as your parent. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, yes, I do. Yes, I do. She's setting a
So,
clear expectation.
right. She has a goal. She is being challenged on it, and so it's her problem. But now, just like anybody who has a problem, you sit down and discuss it. Okay? So, whatever his barrier was, but if he's continually doing this, there is a problem. If somebody comes in, they've been coming in all week long on time, and then the Friday they come in late, then that's just a minor setback. But if he's constantly coming home and late, and then demanding that his food is warm and challenging her, then that's a problem. And as he gets older, right now he's maybe 14, 13, 14, whatever. But what happens when he gets older, like 17 or 18, and she allows him to go out with the car and tells him to be back home at a certain time and not drink? So, see, all this is to set up so that you can work with your child as they get older and they appreciate you, you appreciate them, and you help them work it out. But his problem now is that he's got cold food and she's not allowing him to, to eat, and he has to eat what she put out. All right, let's see. Let's resume.
Check something out, so how about it?
I'm talking to my friends. You can have it when I'm done.
You're always chatting with your friends. Come on, I only need it for a few.
When I'm through.
Okay. You're through.
Hey, you idiot! Mom!
Whose problem is this? Alex and Miranda's or their mother's?
So what do you think about this?
This is Miranda and Alex's problem because both of their goals of using the computer are being blocked. Unless their arguing was so loud that it disrupted their mother, in which case it would become her problem. Let's try another one.
It's my profile. I don't see what the big deal is.
The big deal, Matt, is that you and your friends are not the only ones who use the internet. College admissions people, your teachers, and other adults see this stuff. And if you put something stupid or obscene on there, it will follow you forever.
Whose problem is this? Dad's or Matt's?
So whose problem do you think this is? Dad or Matt's?
That one could be both. Just thinking that if the son puts something obscene, then it could negatively impact the dad's job, depending on what he does or his, whatever involves him. And then with the son, if he's posting something obscene, obviously that could interfere with his future. So it could be both of their problem.
Okay, we'll see. And I'm gonna tell you, I didn't get all this at first either. And sometimes I still have to think about, now whose problem is this really? You know why? Because we always make our children's problems our problems. And we always feel that we have to solve them. So let's see what happens here.
This is the father's problem because his goal of seeing his son behave well in public is the issue here. Monitoring teens' use of the internet and teaching them to use it appropriately is a parent's responsibility. But what about this problem?
Oh, hi, Erin. How did it go? Fran, there was kind of a problem with the necklace you gave me.
Oh?
I was letting one of the girls try it on, and she dropped it, and then someone stepped on it. I'm really sorry, but I'm sure you have more. You'll probably never miss it.
Wow, it's really broken.
I know, I can't believe she did that. It looks really good on me, too. She must have just been jealous. Oh well. Good night, Fran.
Good night.
Who owns this problem? Erin or her stepmother, Fran?
Okay. Who do you think owns the problem?
The mom.
The mom? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's see.
This is Fran's problem because her goals of getting her necklace back intact and being able to trust Erin were not fulfilled. She'll need to use discipline skills to help teach her stepdaughter to be responsible for what she borrows. Once we determine who owns the problem, we can choose the appropriate skills for handling it: discipline, support, or a combination of both.
Okay. So what do you think about that? What do you think about, who owns the problem? Do you find it's kind of hard to decide?
I think this one's really clear. Like the kid's not having any problem at all with it. She
Right.
explained she had a minor problem that her friend did the wrong thing, but she didn't really step up and take responsibility for what she borrowed. And I think that's really common, when your frontal lobe hasn't developed all the way, you're like, well, it's not my belonging and
Not mine.
I didn't
And I
step
think
on
we
it.
have a lot
And
more, right?
like it's hard for them to kind of understand the nuance of responsibility in that situation. And so I think it's a great opportunity to do some teaching as the parent. It's maybe kind of difficult as a step parent. And maybe the stepmom learned something here, which was that the teaching maybe needed to happen more on the front end, that maybe she had expectations about her stepdaughter being more responsible or more developmentally aware than she actually was. And so prior to lending more things out, they might need to do some baby steps to like teach, little steps along the way to kind of learn that extended, nuanced responsibility.
And sometimes, you give children things that maybe they're not, like you said, equipped to have, right? That looked like a very expensive necklace, I mean, it looked that way, I don't know. But also the attitude of, oh, well, you have so many more, you'll get over it, that's not acceptable, So, yeah, and it is kind of, you just have to ask yourself these questions, is it blocking my goals, and is it kind of something that is challenging my authority as a parent? So you have to look at these goals and think about that and think about what is the best way to do things. And it's nothing wrong in taking a breather and not yelling and screaming right there in the moment, and think about what what you're going to do. All right. So let's start again.
The first step in opening the lines of communication with your teen is to avoid words, tone of voice, and nonverbal cues that discourage your teen from sharing his or her thoughts and feelings. These communication blocks, as they're called, rob your teen of courage and self-esteem and are surefire ways to build a wall between the two of you. Let's take a tongue-in-cheek look at some of the most familiar communication blocks and imagine how discouraged you would feel if you were Jada.
I can't believe it's already my junior year. I have no idea what I'm going to do after I graduate.
I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go to college so you can get that diploma. So you better start practicing on that SAT.
But I don't know if I'll be ready for college.
Well, you probably won't do very well on the SAT anyway. So don't get your hopes up about college.
Gee, thanks a lot. But that's not what I meant. I was thinking maybe I could take a year off. Maybe I could get a job, save some money, maybe buy a car.
Who put that idea in your head? Was it that boy you've been spending so much time with?
I thought of it myself. Give me some credit, sheesh.
Now, don't use that tone with us, young lady. It won't get you very far in life.
I'm sorry. I just wish you'd stop acting like I can't come up with my own ideas.
Well, I don't know about that, soldier. Was it your own idea when you got mixed up with those shoplifting buddies of yours?
That was ages ago, and I didn't have anything to do with it.
I wouldn't have been seen anywhere near kids like that when I was your age. It's obvious they haven't been brought up with good values.
Obviously.
I'm sensing a little latent hostility. Why don't you lie down and tell me the last time you started having these feelings of frustration and anger?
Well, I think it all began about 2 minutes ago.
Here's my advice for you, Jada. Focus all your attention on getting into the best college possible. Think bigger than summer jobs and cars. You need to be planning your career and setting long-term goals. And you need to grow up, get a work ethic, and stop feeling sorry for yourself. Next caller, please.
What's the use?
Well, that's a healthy attitude to have towards your future.
I'm so glad she felt she could share her little problem with us.
Me too. I wonder why she doesn't come to us for help more often.
Okay, so, do you think that she's going to come back? And that's what our kids sometimes get. I'm going to stop. Well, I hate to do that because then I might not come back to the right place. And we have to think about this when we talk to our kids. What are we saying to them? How are we communicating to them? And are we giving them the respect that we want them to give us? Okay, so let's see if we can continue. Uh, any words, tone of voice, or body language that influence a person sharing a problem to end the communication are communication blocks. Commanding, interrogating, negative expectations, focusing on mistakes, bringing up past mistakes. That's something that my kids always talk about. Mom, we talked about that. We're over that. But I seem to go back to it. Remember when you did this? And they're like 11, 12, and then that was when they were 5 or 6. So we have to really think about what we're saying to our kids, okay? Courage equals love. The confidence to make a known risk for a known purpose. Courage equals positive action, which equals success. And discouragement leads to negative actions and failures. And we have to think about that. And so we need to always encourage our kids and take on positive actions. Encouragement, positive actions, success. Avoid discouraging your kids all the time, because when you discourage kids and stuff like that, it comes back, and it comes back in a negative way. So the encouragement circle, one thing I like about you is think of something that you would tell your child. One thing I like about you is somebody give me a word. One thing that you like about your child.
Responsible.
Okay. All right. So you want to be direct, you want to be specific, be sincere, and say thank you. So, okay, you said, Carlos, that tell me what you said again.
I said
Responsible.
responsible.
Okay. So be very specific about when they were responsible.
All right. So just the fact that she's able to like get to school on time. I remind her all the time that I'm very proud of her, and that she's a very responsible young adult. She's about to be 19 on Saturday, so I mean she's doing really really great. Being responsible,
Okay.
responsible with her school, responsible with her um, job. Yeah.
Okay. So that is very direct, right? As you're
hmm
saying it to her.
hmm
You're being very specific about certain things that she's responsible about, because you
hmm
can just say the word responsible and not put anything in it, any descriptive.
Right.
And what does and you're very sincere. And
Yes.
then, like I said, you say thank you, and I really appreciate that. So that is being that's a really great encouragement circle for your daughter. Okay.
Encouragement. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, active communication, listen actively. We talked about that. Listen for feelings. When you're talking to your child, listen for feelings, because if you don't listen for feelings, you'll be missing the whole conversation, really, and you won't pick up on things that they're going through. Look for alternative uh, and evaluate the consequences. Does the consequence really go for whatever um, the problem is? Offer encouragement, even though you may have to give them a consequence. Offer encouragement, even though I am, keeping you off the internet for the weekend. I still think that you do great in other areas, and just want you to be more, in tune to what you're doing. And then later on, follow up. Come back a week later and say, how are things going? What do you think, about what happened? And, I appreciate you following the rules and listening to me. Because a child always wants to know that they did right and that you are proud of them. Active listening is attention, acknowledgement, and empathy. Does everybody know what empathy is? Anybody want to tell us what empathy is? Well, empathy, there's sympathy and there's empathy. And in sympathy, we give people a lot of times, well, oh, I'm so sorry to hear what happened to you, right? But empathy is that, I may not know what happened to you, but I wish that there was something that I could do to help you out, or I feel that if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. So that's empathy. That's putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Sympathy is just like, I'm sorry. And there's a good video on YouTube from Renee Brown about empathy. And so if you have a chance, please. Can somebody write that in the chat box? Renee Brown and empathy. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's by John C. Maxwell. So, people don't care how much you know. Okay, you know that. But when you show them caring and loving and kindness, they do care about that and they do feel that. So this is an activity. If we were in person, we could do that. And palms up activity is, I'm still not sure what to do about school. And the parent is, here's what you need to do, right? And they talk to you about that. And you put your palms together and you really touch and communicate each other. Okay? And you're just giving them suggestions, right? The parent, I don't know what you will decide to do, but let's look at your options. So you're just helping them look at and brainstorm and get options. Offering encouragement. 4 ways to offer encouragement to teens. Focus on strengths, what they do good. Show confidence that you believe that they have good strengths. Help to stimulate independence. And what we mean by that is trust them sometimes to do things independently. If it's not right, then you can sit down and talk about it and give them options. Value who they are. And that's a big one. Everybody wants to be valued, loved, and cared for. Okay. I'm not having good luck, so keep your fingers crossed for this one. Video 4, active communication skills. All right.
So, the first step in supporting teens with problems they own is to avoid blocking communication by using discouraging words, tone, and body language. Next, you can use the 5-step active communication process to help them decide on a plausible solution. Let's see how Mrs. Shelton can help Abby with her school problem by using these 5 steps to listen actively, respond to feelings, Look for alternatives and evaluate consequences. Offer encouragement and follow up later.
Hey, you look pretty miserable. And you've never cut school before.
I'm not going, so don't even try.
You sound pretty upset about it.
You would be too.
Well, what's happened that's got you so upset?
Nothing.
Well, I can't make you go, Abby. And I don't know what you'll decide to do, but I would like to talk to you about it.
Well, Steven, he's the editor of the yearbook, and he called this big meeting just to yell at us. And the only person he called out by name was me. And then when I tried to give him my excuse, he cut me off, and said that it wasn't his job to babysit freshmen.
Oh, Abby, that must have really hurt.
I wanted to crawl under a desk and die.
Pretty embarrassing.
I've never been so humiliated. The rest of them just thought it was hilarious. There's no way I can go back there.
Well, I don't blame you for feeling that way.
You don't?
No, I don't. I remember, maybe I shouldn't even tell you this story.
Don't, I told you.
All right, well, I was a senior, and I went to the movies with a date, and we parked. And we just kissed a little, but he told everybody that I was really easy. And he implied that we did a lot more.
What a jerk.
Believe me, I called him worse than that when I found out. And I was just so incredibly embarrassed by the whole thing.
What do you think I should do? I mean, I can't call Steven a jerk. Besides, I have missed some deadlines.
Well, as your editor, Steve does have the right to expect you to handle your responsibilities.
I guess, but he didn't have to call me out in front of everybody like that and embarrass me.
No, I agree. That was uncalled for. Well, let's see. What are your options? You could hang out here for the rest of your life with your dad and me.
No thanks. No offense.
No offense taken. What else could you do?
I could quit the yearbook, write him a note or something.
Yeah, you could quit. How would you feel if you did that?
Like a quitter? Besides, I don't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing that I'm quit.
There is something to be said for that. Well, tell me about this guy, Steve. Is he really a bad person? Or was he maybe just feeling some of the pressures of deadlines, too?
Both. I mean, he has yelled at other people before.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something about the world of work. Some bosses are like that. And you just have to decide whether you want to work for them or go someplace else. Of course, if you miss a deadline, you can get fired, too.
I guess Steven's not that bad. I mean, he has complimented me on my work sometimes.
Well, why don't you ask him to talk about it and tell him how you feel about what happened?
Well,
look, I know it'd be hard, and it would take a lot of courage. But I've seen you stand up for yourself before, and you do it without being offensive.
I'll think about it.
Good. Let me know how it turns out.
Hi, Mom.
Hi. So, how'd it go today? Did you talk to Steve?
No, I didn't have to. He kind of apologized to all of us for yelling the other day and said that we were all doing a really good job.
Well, I am so glad it worked out well for you.
Thanks.
Great.
Okay. So, what do you think about that? How do you think she was able to, instead of just dismissing her child's feelings, she actually pinpointed her child's feelings?
I can say something. I like that she personalized it because sometimes I think our kids feel like we're perfect and we're supposed to be these perfect people, but we're just human beings. And I like that she was able to share a personal experience that she had to make, kind of not to come down to her level, but to just connect with her. So I thought that was awesome.
To bring her in, right? To include
Yes.
her. So it's like you're not the only one that makes mistakes. I've done it too.
We're
Yeah.
all human beings. Yes, I like that a lot.
How did you like the way that she got her to start talking?
You asking me
Anyone?
again? Oh,
Well, yeah, you can answer if you'd like.
I mean, I
Thank you.
thought that made her kind of take the attention off of how she felt in that moment and kind of
Hmm.
allowed her to speak more freely.
Right.
I like the way she validated the daughter's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think that's hard to do, and it really does work. So it's a good reminder.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're kind of upset with your child about doing something, well, you yelled at the teacher, but instead we could say, well, I could see how your feelings might, be hurt, but, is yelling at the teacher the best solution? Let's talk about it. What do you think? And I can remember when I made a mistake, in class, and how I responded to the teacher. So just including, just acting like a child is a person. We feel that children get upset and they're supposed to just be like, okay, I'm upset, but I'm not going to be angry. You know, they can be angry, but they can be angry in a respectful way. You know, Miss Wright, I really didn't appreciate that you yelled at me in front of the class, or instead of yelling and slamming out the room and throwing your books down and stuff like that. So we have to teach our kids what are the um, different options you can do, and hoping, and this is when you allow them to be independent, when you go over all these different options, hoping that they pick the right option. And if they don't, then you still have time to talk to them again and help them rectify the situation. But if you always tell them what to do, what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if you constantly
They're always going
tell
to
a
be
child?
depending on someone else and not depending on their own self.
Right, right. And so when you're really not around, they won't have anything to listen to, right? Because a lot of times what you say to kids, it reverberates in their mind and everything if you're not there. Oh, my mother said this, We have kids who even um, say to people, well, my mother said you're not a very nice person, right? And we say, oh, why did you do that, right? Because that's something that they hear us say. So they go back and repeat it to the person. So if we tell them that this is a situation when somebody says something that you don't like, you don't have to fight them. You can walk away from them. They can hear that too, right? And that's a way of learning and teaching them and also giving them options. Okay, you don't want to fight because at school you're not allowed to fight. And then what might happen? You might get expelled or suspended from school. So, what do you think is a better way of dealing with this situation? To walk away or not to fight? So, you're letting them know the right thing to do and hoping that they will pick it on their own because they need to be more independent and be able to pick their battles. Does anybody have anything to say about that?
I was just going to say cooler heads prevail. And sometimes we just have to be still and because when we're in our emotions and we're in the heat of, feeling upset, sometimes we just need to cool off, take some time. And I feel like then we have time to think about it and process things and then come back to the table. Always seems to work out better. more calm.
And as a parent, yeah, and as a parent, when I react angrily in a situation, it's usually the wrong thing. I've said the wrong thing, I've done the wrong thing, and my child is mad, I'm mad, and then I'm like, I wish I hadn't have done that. And so it's better to take a couple of minutes and think about what you're going to say, because when you're yelling at a kid, that's discouraging them. It's demeaning them, you know. And what are they going to do? They're going to fire back at you. And trust me, they have a lot more ammunition than we have sometimes. And that's that power struggle, right? That's a power struggle when you're going back and forth. And then what happens is that a lot of times you say things that you don't want to say. So sitting down, cooling off, both sitting at a table at the same level, right, is a better way to talk to your child than standing over top of them, pointing at them, and yelling and screaming. If you notice at all these videos, so we talked about all this, listening actively, following up later. And that follow up later is very important, right? Very important. We're going to skip this one. So, responding to feelings video practice.
Chris said he'd give my tickets to somebody else since I can't go. Oh well, I guess that's that.
Okay, so how's he feeling?
Somebody said frustrated.
Frustrated. Okay, thank you. Whoever that was, thank you very much. All right, let's resume.
You sound pretty disappointed.
No matter how much I study this math, I still don't get it.
Okay. What do you think about this one? So the other one was disappointed and frustrated too, right? Because he couldn't go. I think so. That wouldn't be bad. And he could probably say to you, well, no, not frustrated. I'm just disappointed because I really wanted to go. So what about her and her math problem?
Stressed out, trying to understand.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I know it can be frustrating, sweetie.
Okay.
Mom, I hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer and we won by 2.
Okay. What about him?
Happy.
Happy. Kind of pleased with himself, right?
Proud, excited.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, all right. That's something to be excited about. My boy.
Like this. There's just nothing to do around here.
Okay, we've seen that before, right?
Bored, not being busy.
Bored, yes.
Well, you sound bored, Justin.
And then he yelled at me for knocking over his drink. That jerk.
You're really angry at him, aren't you?
I don't know how I'm ever going to face Julie again after acting like such a jerk.
Okay, what do you think about him? Remember the
Embarrassed.
drink? Yeah, embarrassed. Because he was drunk and he was in somebody else's bedroom and the girl spilled alcohol on his bed.
That must have been very embarrassing for you.
But what if once I'm on stage, I forget all my lines and I just stand there and look stupid?
Okay, what about her?
Self-confidence.
Well, it's about self-confidence, but what do you think is right now what's going on? like a feeling. Maybe fear.
Not feeling sure.
Self-doubting.
Okay. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
Someone said insecure in the chat.
Yes.
And anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're feeling nervous about this.
Okay. So, what we want you to do is concentrate on how your child is feeling. You know, when they come home and they said, oh, nothing, you say, what happened today? How was your day? Nothing. I don't want to talk about it. See how they're feeling and put a feeling to it. Even if you're wrong, they will correct you and tell you, no, that's not it. Try again. But this will help them to communicate and talk to you. Okay. So communication between adults, take one.
When you're trying to improve communication with your teen, it's important to practice what you preach. After all, teens often use their parents' behavior as a model for their own. But it's not always easy for us parents to be perfect positive role models for our teens. The challenges of parenthood, work, and personal life can get in the way. Rarely is the case clearer than with divorced parents. After a divorce, many adults are not interested in getting along with or even talking to their former spouses. The shift from partners to co-parents in different homes isn't easy. And when the relationship is hostile, the entire step family pays a painful price. Let's visit the Bryants as Paul goes to pick up his daughter Erin from his former spouse and Erin's biological mother, Susan.
What do you mean Erin isn't ready yet? You knew when I'd be here. You were never on time, and now Erin's picking up your bad habits.
Speaking of being late, your support check was late this month. Again.
Well, it went out in the mail on time. It's probably lost in all your clutter.
Come on, Erin, your father's in a hurry. Otherwise, I'm sure he'd love to stick around and think of some new excuses to explain why our check is not here.
I see you haven't lost your gift for sarcasm.
I see you've not lost yours for avoiding responsibility.
Hey, please don't fight. It's my fault I'm late, not Mom. She had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry. Let's go.
See, Paul, you've upset us both. I don't know why you can't just be civil.
Come on.
Don't let him get you down, Erin. Call me if you need to. And Paul, don't let her stay up all night again like you did last time, even if her stepbrother does. And don't let her stay on the internet for more than 2 hours. And no more R-rated movies.
You just don't like her having fun when she's over at my place. Come on, sweetheart. We're burning daylight here.
All right. Ooh. So, even though they showed this as a divorced couple, this can also happen to, you know, couples that are together, especially when you don't agree with parenting skills. And what does that do to the child? What do you think happens when two adults argue and criticize each other in front of
The
children?
child gets frustrated,
Yes.
gets hurt,
Hmm.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And what do most children think when this happens?
It's my fault.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have ways of communicating with each other when we see each other and talk to each other. And then if we need to communicate in other ways, we can do it without our children hearing us. This is very important when you're trying to discipline your children. They're playing, and mom says, I want you to pick up your toys and stuff. And dad says, oh, come on. You're always being a neat freak. Let them play. Let them have fun. So what does the child think that they can do? And what usually happens?
The child will get confused that they won't know which way is correct
Hmm.
when
And
two
also, what
parents
else can,
think different.
go ahead.
When parents think different,
Hmm. And then what happens usually if one parent is saying what the child wants to hear and the other one isn't, what happens? What does the child do sometimes?
they will grow up being unstable.
They do what they want.
Yeah.
They learn to be impulsive and not to have discipline.
And if mom's telling them no and clean up, and dad's telling them, leave it alone, right? You have two different parenting styles, right? So mom and dad need to come together, decide on how they're going to do things, and if one doesn't agree with the other, they should wait until later and talk to each other about it and make a decision on how they are going to, move forward.
I
Because the child could, go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, sorry. I can understand the situation, the parent, the way she feels and everything. And I can understand the dad because the mom is the one taking all the responsibility, maybe 24 hours, 7 days a week. And the dad, he just come in, depending on the schedule, hey, let's come out or for the weekend. So it's less responsibility. So of course,
Right.
they're going to be acting different because of whatever they have on them, on their responsibility. So the mom is trying to teach the daughter, discipline, the right way. And then the dad is kind of like, going back. So it's kind of get confusing, the child being in between.
Right. And as they grow older, what happens? The child triangulates the two parents, right? Well, mom said I can do this, and dad is like, "Oh, don't listen to mom, she's stuck in the mud. And mom is saying, "Oh, don't listen to your father because he doesn't care about the house. He doesn't care about things. So we have to be very careful not to, split ourselves in front of our kids. Does anybody have or know of any experiences like that? Okay. Just know that, kids take their cues from their parents, and kids learn from their parents. So they say some of the same things their parents say. So if I'm yelling and screaming and cursing, what do you think that child is going to do when they get outside and they're talking to their friends or somebody does something to them? They're going to yell, scream, and curse, right? Because that's what they know how to do. So we have to really, lower our voices, talk to our kids and other people around the house, and kind of do. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be a perfect parent all the time. You're going to lash out sometimes, you're going to be angry sometimes. But if that does happen, you can bring your children together and say, listen, I know I was angry. I know I was yelling and screaming. This is not the way we want to do this in our house. I apologize. You, as a parent, can apologize and say, from now on, we're going to try and do things this way. And that might not feel good to you. I'm the parent, I'm the sword of justice. I want to do things this way. Well, sometimes we have to realize that we're not right and we need to do things differently, and we need to let our kids know that, okay, yes, I might be wrong in this instance, but I am the parent, and we will work on the rules and things together. You know, we are in partnership here in our home, and we need to work things out and talk to each other. Okay? So that's the same way with our partner, because each of us have been raised up differently. You know, when we marry somebody, we just say, "Oh, I'm in love with you," and everything goes out the door. But then as life goes on, you find out more and more about this person because we don't always do our due diligence and check out how people were raised and things like that. We learn as we go along. And so when we're both raised in two different ways, sometimes that can be a, barrier in our marriage and in raising our child. So we have to come together, talk about this, and really think about how we're going to raise our children, how we're going to talk to each other, what is going to be important in our lives and in our children's lives. Does anybody have any comments or concern about that? Okay, we've got about 15 more minutes. Let's see where we are.
The previous video was a good example of how conflict, in this case, unresolved issues from a divorce, can cause communication between parents to break down, resulting in a very disrespectful encounter. Neither parent set out to hurt their daughter, but both of them made the mistake of thinking more about themselves than about what they have in common, Aaron. As a result, not only did they upset Aaron, but they also set a poor example of communication for her, and consequently, they made their co-parenting relationship even worse. So whose fault was it? Paul's or Susan's? If you try to place blame on one parent or the other, you might be missing the point. Either of them could have stopped this argument or kept it from starting in the first place. Let's see what might have happened if Susan had chosen a more respectful way to deal with her former husband.
What do you mean Aaron isn't ready yet? You knew when I'd be here. You were never on time, and now Aaron's picking up your bad habits.
Sorry, Paul. We're running a little late this morning. I didn't realize Aaron's soccer uniform hadn't been washed. It's in the dryer now. Please come in and I'll do my best to get her moving a bit faster. Would you like a cup of coffee or...
Oh, here
It's
she comes.
Dino.
Hi, Daddy.
Hey, kiddo, you ready to get moving?
Sure. Bye, Mom. See you Sunday.
Bye. Thanks for understanding, Paul. We're not used to soccer season around here yet. Next time I'll make sure she gets her stuff together the night before so you don't have to wait on us. Y'all have a great time this weekend.
Thanks. You have a good weekend yourself.
Bye.
Okay, so she kind of put a plug in all that, right? And we can do that a lot of times with our loved ones, with our children, with our friends, just by not reacting to, the drama, and we have to know how people feel and understand how their time is and how, this can happen. And we can be the better, as parents, as divorced moms or divorced dads, and we can do the same thing with our children. Because there are times when our children come in, they want to argue and fuss, right? And we launch right into it. But we can put the plug on it and I see that you're upset right now. I don't know what happened, but let's cool off, sit down. I'll make you something to drink and we can talk about it if you want. So just understanding that we can, stop the frustration, the arguing by just doing something different, something positive. All right. So remember, we have family enrichment activity. And this is a letter of encouragement. And I want to say something to you. Um, excuse me, this is not what I wanted to do. When my children were younger, at Christmas time, right? Uh, and we had, the computer and everything. I would write each of them a letter of encouragement, a letter of love, and it came from Santa Claus, right? So Santa Claus would always tell them, about doing good in school and about something significant that they did that, I was proud of them and different things like that. So one year, I guess about the third or fourth year of me doing this, my kids got together and they said, "We know who Santa Claus is." And of course, they should know who Santa Claus is. They were older now, using the whole Santa thing was just one of those things that we just kept up as long as we could. And they said, "Thank you, Mom." And not too long ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, and my kids now are in their 30s, and they told me how much they appreciated the letters that I used to write to them at Christmas time. And so this Christmas, I wrote them another letter, and they appreciate it. So I think sometimes writing these letters of encouragement to our kids, I know I picked Christmas, but at any time, you know, you want to encourage your kids and let them know how much you love them and thank them for what they do. So let's go to this.
I'd like to share an experience I once had as a young Sunday school teacher. I had written a letter to each of my students at the end of the year, focusing on their strengths and areas of improvement. I hadn't thought much about it until 4 years later, when one of the mothers came up to me at a reception and said that her daughter, Alice, still had her letter pinned to her bulletin board. Putting our thoughts in writing is such a powerful form of communication in our society that by writing our children and teens letters of encouragement, we can make a lasting positive impression.
Dear Abby, I was thinking about that talk we had the other day, about the problem with the school yearbook. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. It felt good knowing that we can talk about things like that. School can be challenging sometimes, but I really admire how you thought through the problem and handled it. It took a lot of courage to go back in there and face the situation, but you did, and it turned out well. I love watching you grow into a wonderful young woman, Abby. You work hard. You play hard, too. You're smart, funny, and a lot of fun to be around. And if I forget to tell you often enough, I'm really glad that you're my daughter. Love, Mom.
This week's family enrichment activity is obviously for you to write a letter of encouragement to each of your teens. There's a sample letter in your parents' guide to help you get started. It doesn't have to be long, just truthful, and keep it positive. Write about what you believe to be your teen's strengths, what you particularly like about them, and areas where you've seen improvement. Don't expect to get a letter back or find yours pinned to his or her bulletin board in 4 years. But do know that whatever you write, it'll have a lasting influence.
Okay. So that is the end of session 2. Let me stop sharing. And so your homework assignment is to write a letter of encouragement to your children. And remember, it's a positive thing. We're not going to talk about what they didn't do. We're going to talk about the good things that they did do. Okay, and be specific and let them know that you love them and care for them. And it doesn't matter whether they've gotten good grades or bad grades. It doesn't matter whether they just overfed the fish. It doesn't matter whether they came in late. But a letter of encouragement and love can go a long way with joining you and your child together. So can I get overall to everybody that says that they will write this letter of encouragement? Can I get a yes in the chat box? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.